AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2. Off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer family in Louisiana. See, I just did it. Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
Muso. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Jeff Duncan, a little more than an hour from right now. Big Ten Media Days going on. We talked. We opened the show with a little bit of what Tony Petitti had to say about the SEC, the Big Ten, their relationship, the possibility of the SEC breaking away, all that conversation. The on-the-field stuff is a big part of the conversation as well. Petitti 13, please, was asked about how the depth of the Big Ten sort of gets overlooked, he says.
You cannot send your top teams out into the CFP and have them be successful, which we have been very successful, if they're not going through a gauntlet in the regular season. You know, this idea that the middle of our conference isn't hard is just not right. Like, at the end of the day, our teams are ready for the CFP. Our travel looks like the CFP travel. You're going all over the country. How we play, the difficulty in the road in the Big Ten, I just think that's overlooked. The reason why we've been so successful is our teams are prepared. When the best teams in any given season play each other, that's great. That prepares them. But you also get through a lot of really difficult games. You cannot just be ready to go play in the postseason after you think you've played something easy. It just doesn't happen.
It's factually inaccurate. Florida State did that for a decade in the ACC, which was an atrocious league. Miami did it in the Big East, which was an atrocious football league. Southern Cal and Pete Carroll did it in the Pac-12 or Pac-10, which was USC and its 9 little brothers. So, yes, you absolutely can make hay on a national stage and not have to go through a gauntlet. And to suggest that, look, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, like the top of the league, very good. That's indisputable. Michigan, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, winning a national championship. Yes, indisputable, very good teams. What is also indisputable is Purdue was 0-9 in the conference a year ago, and they're a joke. Maryland was 1-8. Michigan State was 1-8. Wisconsin was 2-7, fired their coach. Rutgers, 2-7. They're an atrocity of a football program. Penn State fired James Franklin. They were supposed to be at the top. They went 3-6 in the league, fired their coach. UCLA, 3-6. It was a terrible football team. Northwestern was 4-5. Nebraska was 4-5. More than half your league was sub 500. It is an atrocious football league in the middle and bottom. That is the key difference. When you look at the SEC a year ago, where South Carolina, with Lenora Sellers and an edge rusher that might end up being a top 10 pick in the draft this year, went 4-8 because they can't seem to win a close game in conference. Like, that's the difference between the two leagues, which is why Lane Kiffin is shouting about the 9-game schedule, and he's right, because you've made it more difficult. You're putting yourself through a gauntlet, playing those 9 games, and the Power 4 mandate. You're making it more difficult on yourself when the committee has not shown they're going to reward you. And the way Lane said it was at Ole Miss, they were 20-0 in non-conference games. A lot of those games were blowouts, so your starters aren't even playing the second half, so their snap count is down, so they stay fresher. Yeah, it matters. Matters a lot. But Brett Bielema, out there trying to make waves. This is what the Illinois coach said.
I spent a couple years in the SEC, was with Slive, and then transitioned to Sankey. And I just think about it now, everybody's going to have, opinions, and obviously they're going to draw the Big Ten, SEC, and all that goes around about that. But to sit in the room with both of those guys, I think with Tony and the vision and experience that he has, and to be in the room where Sankey, I know he's got to protect the SEC, and they kind of want to live in 2005 forever. But I think the forward thinking of where we are in college football is an awesome thing.
Brett Bielema in 5 seasons was 11-29 in the SEC. Back to the point about the Big Ten not having depth. Exhibit A, Bert. Give our best to Ernie. Mickey Loomis met with reporters earlier today. I want to get to that here in just a second. Got to remind you about Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Gents, if you're thinking of popping the question, or maybe you have a big-time anniversary coming up, a birthday coming up, you want to thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, and they have locations all over Louisiana. 2 in Baton Rouge, Lafayette, New Orleans, Shreveport, and online at lmfj.com. 9 locations in all. And because they buy for 9 locations, they have great buying power, which means they can pass along great pricing to you on the best diamonds in the world. It's like Goldilocks. You can go to I say it all the time, go to the box store, it's going to be cookie cutter. Go to the boutique jeweler, selection's not going to be great, you're going to overpay. Lee Michaels, just right. Big enough to give you a great selection at a great price, and small enough to be able to give you that personalized customer service, the Lee Michaels experience. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. Mickey Loomis met with reporters here on Tuesday in advance of the New Orleans Saints hitting the practice field for day 1 of training camp on Wednesday. And they covered a little bit of ground, not necessarily on the field, but a lot of the contractual stuff and the roster stuff. And he was naturally asked about Chris Olave's extension. Here was the update.
Yeah, listen, we're having a lot of discussions. We have meetings, and we're just not there yet. We're hopeful. We want to get it done, and Chris and his agents, Jason and Drew Rosenhaus, I know they want to get it done. We all do, but look, it's got to be right for both parties.
The great news, but I'll come back to that in a second, but the great news is that Loomis was asked about Olave participating in camp even while he waits on an extension.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a question for him, but he was certainly here today. And look, Chris has been as enthusiastic and optimistic as anyone. So really, really appreciate the way he's conducted himself. And that's not just this year. That's every year with Chris. So he's an absolute joy to have on our team.
The problem that the Saints are going to run into is every time a receiver gets a new deal, and it resets the market. And so what you were going to pay, it's why it behooves you to do a deal earlier so you don't come in on the back end and pay more. The risk, though, is a year ago, if you redid Olave's deal, you would have paid him while he was coming off a season where he missed half the year because of concussions. So you wait, he goes and has the best year of his career, and then Drake London gets the deal that Atlanta gave him, 4 years, $141 million at an average of $35 million per. Well, Olave has played better than Drake London. So I know what's happening. Drew Rosenhaus is going, hey, brother, I'm not saying pay him like JSN, but you got to pay him like Drake London because there's your comp. And that's the challenge, because I've said it over and again, Chris Olave is not a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He is a really good starter in the NFL. He'd be a dominant number 2 in the NFL. I think he's maybe a top 20 receiver, as we've talked about the average annual value of salary. You look at guys in the neighborhood of, as we've gone through this, Chris Godwin's at $22 million per. Jacoby Myers is at 20. Calvin Ridley's at 23. Devontae Smith's at 25. Like if I gave you Devontae Smith or Chris Olave, probably take a Devontae Smith, right? So that's the player comp. But again, it doesn't matter what the player comp is. They're looking at the numbers in recency. So that's something that they're going to keep an eye on. Now, Loomis also was asked about the decision to bring back Alvin Kamara.
And meaningful to us. that was just an ongoing discussion. What's the contract going to look like? What's the role look like? And, Alvin's another guy that was really great in terms of, expressing his desire. He's always, said he wants to play for the Saints his entire career. I appreciate that. Same thing with Cam. Those two guys, I couldn't be more excited that they're with us. They have the opportunity to continue their career with the Saints and only the Saints. I think that's really special, and it's meaningful to them and meaningful to us.
Really quickly, Seven Muse, the one other veteran, as you mentioned there, with Cam and with Alvin Kamara, the one other veteran who I think we all know his career in New Orleans and his NFL career likely is over, is Taysom Hill.
Mickey, has there been any communication with Taysom at all, and just maybe what his plans are?
Yeah, I've talked to Taysom a couple of times. Yeah, but I'll keep that to myself.
That means Taysom will announce what his future is going to be when Taysom wants to announce what his future is going to be. And finally, Loomis did run through the guys that will start the season on PUP or the non-football injury list.
We put two players on PUP today, Keyshawn Silver and Mason Tipton. We expect those guys to be back pretty quickly. We placed on NFI Xavier Harris relative to an injury he had in college. Don't expect that to be very long. And Cody Hardy as well, who didn't pass the conditioning test today.
That's good.
Jordan Tyson's good to go.
Yep, that means Jordan Tyson is good to go, as you heard him say. Kendre Miller coming off the torn ACL, also good to go as the Saints start training camp, which is great. Mason Tipton starting on PUP means no Mason Tipton training camp hero, at least at the start. I am a little bummed about Xavier Harris. Remember, Xavier Harris is the big defensive lineman from Ole Miss, 6'8", 330, but for his off-the-field stuff, was kind of projected as maybe a second-round pick, like a day 2 pick. Goes undrafted, and this could end up being like one of those steals of the draft. If you're able to get Xavier Harris healthy and motivated and on the straight and narrow, it could be one of it has a lot of Tyrann Mathieu feels to it, where Tyrann was an amazing talent. The Cardinals stole him in round 3 because of all the off-the-field stuff, and he went on to have a phenomenal career at Arizona and Houston, Kansas City, and New Orleans. I don't know that I'm saying Xavier Harris is going to do that, but it has a lot of that feel to it. A guy that has a super high ceiling. You just got to keep him on the straight and narrow, see if you can. Saints hit the practice field on Wednesday to open up training camp. All right, it's After Further Review. We are brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. I got a text today, as a matter of fact, from the Williamson Eye Center. It said, Matthew, our records indicate you're due for an eye exam. Guess what I'm going to go do? Schedule my eye exam at the Williamson Eye Center, because you should always have your annual eye exam. 924-2020, 924-2020, 924-2020. Back to school's right around the bend, y'all. Parents, make sure you bring your kiddos to the Williamson Eye Center to get their eyes checked. Make sure they can see the board. They can make it through the school year. If they need to get their contacts or glasses prescription updated, you can do it. Williamson Eye Center, full-service optical shop, eye care, eyewear, and eye surgery. WilliamsonEye.com, WilliamsonEye.com, Williamson, EYE.com. Okay, y'all, it's After Further Review. We're glad to have you aboard with us here. I do want to get to some Saints Impact additions here in about 15 minutes from right now. When we come back, though, if you missed it, a few massive announcements about jersey patch and endorsement deals and all kind of stuff that we're going to get to and what it means in college football. And Kyle Whittingham, the new Michigan coach, get used to saying that, had one very fascinating idea he shared with Rich Eisen earlier today from Big Ten Media Days. We'll get to that as we continue. Stay here. It's AFR.
AFR.
If you're a business owner or a homeowner and you have high-speed internet, and sometimes you find yourself just so frustrated at the little spinning wheel because it's taking forever to load, or you're not thrilled with the customer service that you get. Who hasn't been there before? The shoddy customer service when you have an issue. You're routed to a call center overseas. Or you think you're overpaying. I got the solution for you. It's Rev Fiber. R-E-V, RevFiber.com, RevFiber.com. Rev, proud partner of LSU Athletics. Rev is local with 90 years experience in the local market. When you call, their call center is local. So you're talking to someone here when you call Rev. And they have better pricing. Oh, did I mention lightning fast internet speeds backed by an all-fiber network? For your home or for your business, you want Rev Fiber. R-E-V, RevFiber.com. If you love whiskey, and you love steak, you are going to love it. This coming Monday, we're 6 days away, Preservation Distillery is hosting a bourbon dinner at Supper Club. Space is limited. Talked to Chef Layton earlier today. They're going to pair a Preservation Distillery bourbon with each of the 6 courses that you'll enjoy. Remember, Supper Club is closed on Mondays, so they're not open to the public, but they are opening for this event on this Monday, but it is reservation only. I talked to Chef Layton earlier today. They've only got about maybe 10 or 15 spots left, so if you're interested, make sure you call over at Supper Club and reserve your spot this coming Monday on August the 3rd over at Supper Club starting at 6 p.m. So get your reservation in today. Call Supper Club for this Monday.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Open up a throttle and stir a little dust. Just look at her face. She ain't a fooling me. She thinks my tractor's sexy.
I'm glad you're rolling along with us here. Tuesday edition of AFR. We always appreciate Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Shout out to all the farmers. Shout out to everybody who rides a deer. Want a tractor? Bunky and below. You want a deer? You're going to Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Big Ten Media Days rolling along. Kyle Whittingham, remember, longtime Utah coach, is now the coach at Michigan, right? Sharon Moore fired amid scandal. They hire Kyle Whittingham, who Utah wasn't going to extend. It felt like Utah was forcing Whittingham into retirement, and then he ends up as the new head coach at Michigan. It's an odd pairing, candidly, but Whittingham has been a massively successful coach over 2 decades there in Salt Lake City. But what was fascinating is here's Kyle Whittingham, who has spent the last 2 decades at Utah, which is not a blue blood and does not have the level of resources comparable to the blue bloods. Well, now he's switching teams, and he's the head coach of the bluest of blue bloods, the winningest program in the history of college football at Michigan, and goes on the Rich Eisen show today and has this to say.
I think it's got to be an NFL minor league model where we have a salary cap and the players are employees. I think, as distasteful as some of that is, I don't think there's any other way that is better than that. And, right now it's out of control. I mean, we're going to have probably, a dozen teams in the next recruiting cycle with $50 million rosters. And there's such a disparity between the haves and the have-nots. And I think that the only way to get that evened out and level the playing field is to go ahead and pattern it after an NFL, like I said, a minor league NFL model and super league, if you will, and you'll probably see 48 to 60 teams survive the cut and be on the right side of the line in the sand and proceed forward.
By the way, that's a coach making $8.2 million per year who's bemoaning players getting paid in $50 million rosters. But again, it's the thing he just said is the thing that I've literally said here since 2011. You're going to have the cut line, invite only, buy-in, whatever it is, and it'll be 40, 50, 60 teams, whatever it is, and you'll have one Super League. Who runs it? Don't know. Is it a commissioner? Don't know. Who sort of legislates it? Don't know. All that is to be determined. But there is a feeling of inevitability around that. Whittingham went on basically saying, yes, this is the only path forward.
If you had a super conference that breaks away and has their own commissioner and runs it again, just, almost a carbon copy of what's going on in the NFL, then I think you get a chance.
That would maybe also mean you have unions and collective bargaining.
It's part of it.
And that's where it would have to go.
I don't see any other way around it. And if it goes that direction now, private equity is starting to enter the picture as well, and where that goes, who knows? But there's got to be some guardrails. There's got to be some ability to get control of the thing, because the NIL is going up, 20, 30, 40% a year, and it can't continue that way. It's not sustainable.
It's worth noting that every time college athletes have tried to unionize, they get rejected in courts. So in the current system of the student-athlete model under NCAA governance, the courts have routinely said, you can't unionize. You're not employees. Well, if football breaks away and is disassociated from the NCAA, and they established their own league that in theory they could have a pay-for-play model structure. Now, does that mean athletes who are not enrolled in school could play for these football teams? Maybe. You may hate that. My guess is you'll still wrap yourself in your team colors and go to the stadium and shout real loud and love your team whenever they play. But that's where we're headed. And I've been saying it for more than a decade now. You can be as pissed off as you want. You can blame the greedy players and all that stuff. The bottom line is that's where you're sitting today. You're blaming the wrong people. You're blaming because the people to blame are the adults who built a billion-dollar business over the last 10, 20, 30 years as they've continued to escalate revenues, TV contracts, coaches' salaries. Everything got out of hand, and they never considered paying the student athlete. If you come at me with some absolute nonsense like a scholarship, I will slap you in the face, figuratively speaking, of course. I'm not actually going to be violent with anybody. It's stupid. You mean to tell me the value that Fernando Mendoza brought to Indiana University last year is the value of a scholarship? What Joe Burrow brought to LSU is the value of his $20,000 out-of-state tuition? Kick rocks. The adults screwed this up for decades. And now they're paying the price for it. See where it lands. I mean, it's inevitable where it lands. You don't have to believe me. Believe Kyle Whittingham. It's where we're headed. It's just a matter of when. All right, it's after further review. Glad to have you aboard with us here. By the way, Ohio State and Notre Dame both announced jersey patch deals. I want to get to that in a second. Remember, Hancock Whitney, HancockWhitney.com/Matt, HancockWhitney.com/MATT, my name. Love that. They gave us our own custom URL, HancockWhitney.com/Matt. If you want to learn more about Hancock Whitney Bank, I love the fact that at Hancock Whitney, you can get your own custom debit card, Saints or LSU. Of course, Hancock Whitney is an official banking partner of the New Orleans Saints, official banking partner of the LSU Tigers. I have my own gold New Orleans Saints debit card. If you want the black or the gold Saints card, the purple or the gold LSU card, you can get it over at Hancock Whitney Bank. And how about this? If you open up a checking account over at Hancock Whitney, you can get up to $600 after opening a freestyle checking and freestyle savings account and meet the requirements. Just go to HancockWhitney.com/Matt to get started. Minimum deposit, account opening balance, and other requirements apply. Learn more at HancockWhitney.com, member FDIC. HancockWhitney.com/Matt. 222 ATMs across the region. Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas. Almost anywhere you go in the SEC, you'll see Hancock Whitney. HancockWhitney.com/Matt. So the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish have announced jersey patch deals. Ohio State with J.P. Morgan Chase has announced their jersey patch deal, reported to be in the neighborhood of $17 million for that jersey patch deal. Notre Dame has announced their jersey patch deal with SoFi, and that is reportedly in the $18 million range. So the two highest priced jersey patch deals on record so far. A lot of people have asked what the LSU deal is worth. I'm told that is an 8-figure deal. And I think what's important to note, though, is LSU's is for all the varsity sports, and LSU has 21 varsity sports. Ohio State's deal, which reportedly, again, is at $15 to $17 million range, is also for all of its varsity sports, but they have 36 varsity sports. So obviously in that scenario, you can have the jersey on more sports, more uniforms, more games, more competition, so the dollar amount is going to be higher. It would be interesting to see a breakdown of the game by game or the value unit by sport, but I believe it would be comparable there. You know, what's really interesting, though, when you look at Ohio State and Notre Dame, these are two programs that I did the numbers. Here it is. I did the numbers earlier today. So Ohio State last year, fiscal 2025, did $336 million in revenue. $336 million in revenue. And they did $320 in expenses. So they came out at about a net positive of $15 million. Notre Dame last year did about $235 million in revenue. all that to say, the quote that I've used often, attributed to Trev Albert, is college football doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. Here's your case in point. Ohio State last year generated $336 million in revenue, and they spent $320. Those aren't good profit margins. If you operate a business, you get what I'm saying. Which is why even Ohio State has to do a jersey patch deal to try to make up that difference and the imbalance in their budget. Notre Dame, massive brand. By the way, the Notre Dame deal is said to be larger than many of the NBA jersey patch deals. Goes to show you the brand. We may hate it. You may bemoan Notre Dame and hate that they have their own TV deal and won't join a conference. They've built a brand for 150 years, and they're protecting their brand. I get it. I'm not mad at them for it. Man, I like it, and that what it means competitively, that they don't have to play in a conference and they still can be just cakewalked into a playoff spot. But I get why they're protecting their brand. In any event, even these schools with enormous revenue opportunities still need new revenue opportunities because their spending is outsized. That is the problem with college football. That is why Kyle Whittingham saying it's an inevitability that they're going to break away and have a college football, because that's where we're headed because of this. You generate $336 million in revenue, and you're still barely operating in the black. That's how you get the problem college football is at. But in about a month, we'll tee it up, kick it off, strike up the band. We'll watch games, love it, forget about all this nonsense. In the meantime, we'll talk about it because it's what's shaping college football. All right, it's after further review. Let's knock out a quick break. Jeff Duncan will be here in 45 minutes from right now. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. The New Orleans Saints will hit the practice field on Wednesday, and there will be new faces in Saints uniforms. And I want to talk about the guys that I think will be the biggest impact additions here in 2026 as the Saints push off from the dock. We'll get to it next on AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon. Get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. You know what to do. Get Gordon and get it done. Do what injured people in our state have done for 3 decades. A couple of ways that you can get in touch. Number one, you can always call 888-8888. They have offices in every corner of the state. So 225-504-337-985-318. All you got to do is call 888-8888. 888-8888. Dial the 8s. 888-8888. Or go to getgordon.com. If you go to the website, there's a little chat bubble on the bottom of the homepage where just click that chat bubble. In seconds, you're chatting with an associate. Gordon has offices all over the state of Louisiana because if you've been injured, the last thing you want to do is travel. And they can even help you if your accident occurred outside of the state. Let's say maybe you're traveling for vacation and you got in a wreck and you need legal help. Gordon and his team can help there as well. Go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com to see past client results, the types of cases they handle, to chat with an associate. It's all there at getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She likes the way it's pulling while we're tilling up a land. She's even kind of crazy about my farmer's tan. She's the only one who really understands what gets me.
Stay in the game with LouisianaSports.net. Text LSN to 225-499-1045 for breaking news, instant updates on LSU, the SEC, and everything happening across the sports world. While you're there, check out the Our Partners page at LouisianaSports.net. Discover more from the local legends backing your favorite shows on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And this is a cool story. On the eve of training camp, there was a woman, Leslie Pedigo, who said she was standing in line at Rouse's. Shout out, of course. Shout out to Rouse's. That's just a coincidence, I promise. We do love Rouse's. Rouse's.com. Anyway, she's standing in line at Rouse's, and a man walks up behind her with one item. And she tells the cashier to let him go since he only had a bag of shrimp and she had, apparently a basket full of groceries. Well, she says that the man says, hey, ring up all her groceries. Well, the woman, Leslie, initially refuses, but then the man insists and says, my mom taught me to do good deeds, and I'd like to bless you today. Please don't take that blessing from me. Well, that man is Saints rookie defensive lineman Christian Miller. What an awesome story. So Petitti posted on Facebook the photo of she and Miller and wrote, to the New Orleans Saints, you didn't just draft an athlete, you drafted a young man of character. And to Mama Miller, thank you. Thank you for raising a son who understands that true strength is shown through humility, generosity, and faith. Your words clearly stayed with him. And because of that, a complete stranger went home, reminded that there's still so much good in this world. Thank you for your kindness. You reminded me that there's still good people in this world. How about that? How about a big round of applause for Christian Miller? Love that. That's great. That's a babe. And so true. My dad taught me that lesson a long time ago about, about being willing to accept other people's generosity because it's a way to receive God's grace. And so if someone's trying to do something nice for you and you insist, no, well, then you're denying them the opportunity to receive God's grace through that blessing. So I tell you very candidly, on a personal note, something that I had to learn, a lesson I had to learn when Drew was sick, our son. And I realize Drew just turned 12. So there's a lot of people who maybe listen to the show or found the show who weren't aware of that. But we spent 9 months in the hospital in Houston, Texas, when Drew was born. And every day we would get cards in the mail, prayer cards, total strangers who would just send us checks in the mail to the hospital to help us support our. I mean, we're a young family, going through a life-altering thing. And you learn how amazing people really are, how generous and good people are at their core. So God bless. I know it may seem like this is just a guy buying a lady groceries, but so much more than that because of what it says about him. And just be nice to people, man. Just be nice to people. If you can't buy someone's groceries, that's okay. Hold the door. Smile at somebody. Say hello. That's awesome. Good for you, Christian Miller. That's all. That's awesome. It's interesting because that story came on the heels of me wanting to do this, which was to talk about some of the impact newcomers for the Saints as they get ready for training camp. Because there was a piece at ESPN with summertime lists. They did the top 50 newcomers, and there were 3 Saints on it. They had Jordan Tyson at 27, Travis Etienne at 47, and then David Edwards at 50. And those are probably the right answers. Right? I mean, Jordan Tyson was a top 10 pick, explosive wide receiver. Travis Etienne was your high-priced free agent acquisition. You spent over $50 million on him. And then David Edwards, look, you had to fix the interior of your offensive line. Eric McCoy is healthy, and Edwards is now there to fortify left guard. You got your bookend tackles. Cesar Ruiz continues to be the weak link, but you should be good at 4 of the 5 spots. So, I mean, those are the right ones. But I started thinking about the others. And, like, Caden Ellis comes to mind for me naturally because you're talking about a guy that's brought in to replace DeMario Davis, who was the heartbeat of your team. I mean, he was not only the most productive player, your leading tackler, but also your emotional leader, has been here since 2018. So DeMario Davis leaves a giant void that Caden Ellis has to fill. But when I look at all the additions, though, Christian Miller, I think, is one that could be just fascinating to see how this develops here in this training camp. Because we've talked a lot about the veterans who maybe are going to be fighting for a job in this camp. And it can be a young veteran like Kendre Miller, who certainly coming off the torn ACL and has had 3 underwhelming seasons, or is entering this 3rd season now, has a lot to prove and has to make this team with Etienne coming in, re-signing Alvin Kamara, and then some of the young guys who performed exceptionally well at the end of last season, then like Audric Estime, and then you've got Devin Neal coming back for his 2nd season. But I look at Davon Godchaux as another one. And I hate to say that because he's an LSU guy, and we all want the best for the LSU guys and want them to do well and play well and be awesome. But when I look at Godchaux, the season he had last year, Godchaux's a guy now who's been in the league since he was drafted in 2017. And this past year in 2025, coming to New Orleans, was his 2nd lowest defensive grade according to PFF, in his entire, going back to 2017, his overall defensive grade was a 50.5. It was his lowest run defense grade of his entire career at 47.5. So you're talking about a big dude that's playing the 3-4 nose at 6'3", 330, and had his worst season as an interior run defender. And the 455 snaps he played this past year are the lowest that he played in his career when he played a full season. Now, in the COVID year, he played just 172 snaps. There was injury, there was COVID. But aside from that, the 455 snaps he played last year for New Orleans are the lowest of his career, COVID year notwithstanding. So I look at Godchaux, and I look at a 10-year vet at a position where, man, the cavalry's coming behind him. They drafted Vernon Broughton a year ago out of Texas, and he missed the season due to injury. But remember, Vernon Broughton is a big defensive lineman who played at Texas under Bo Davis. That's Saints defensive line coach Bo Davis. So they drafted a guy that Bo Davis is very familiar with. You still got Brian Brzee hanging around, former first-round pick. You got Xavier Harris, who we talked about earlier, is going to start the season on the non-football injury list from an injury he had in college. But he's 6'8", 330, and that's a guy that, but for the off-the-field stuff, might have been a top 50 pick in this draft. And then there's Miller, the guy they did use a second-round pick on. And you go draft Christian Miller out of Georgia, which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed today, Jalen Carter out of Georgia, same defense, just became the highest-paid defensive lineman in NFL history. I'm not sitting here trying to suggest that's the expectation we should have for Christian Miller. But come at that position, coming out of that defense, transitioning into the NFL, should he be able to play right away as a second-round pick? Darn right. So I get why we're going to talk about Jordan Tyson, and we should. He's a top 10 pick, and we're expecting him to be explosive. And I get why we're going to talk about Travis Etienne. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. The Saints stunk at running the football a year ago, and they paid him $54 million, and we should. And I get why we're going to talk about David Edwards, because you were bad on the offensive line, and you went and fortified it with a veteran guy. Made him, he was the top guard signed in this free agent class. But, man, when you talk about camp, for me, when you're looking at the 53 roster spots, generally going into a camp, there might be single-digit spots available. Because all those guys I just mentioned, Tyson and Etienne and Edwards and Chuck, and go to Olave, and go down the list, guys who you know have a roster spot. They've made the team. So you look for the 8 to 10 spots that could be up for grabs. And I think a veteran like Davon Godchaux has a lot to prove in camp. Because, boy, when you look at Miller and Broughton and Brzee and Harris, all those guys behind him, you may not have room for all of them. So keep an eye on Christian Miller here in training camp as they get started on Wednesday. All right, it's after further review. Halfway home here, more than halfway home, on this Tuesday edition of AFR Powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. We'll knock out our final break of hour number 2. We'll come back and usually do Tigers and the Pros. Stay with us on AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark Downtown, Renaissance Southtown, 2 amazing hotel properties in Baton Rouge. Of course, Watermark Downtown, Renaissance Southtown. Renaissance Baton Rouge right there on Bluebonnet. Great place to host any event. What type of event? Any type of event. Need a boardroom for a dozen people? Great, they can do that. Your whole party, you can stay there at Renaissance Baton Rouge. They have the boardrooms. They're set up with all the technology. They can cater in your room as well, in your boardroom as well for your meetings. Maybe you need the grand ballroom for up to 500 people. A fundraiser, an award banquet, a dance, a wedding reception, any type of event. You want to have it at Renaissance Baton Rouge? Tons of parking. They have a great dining option there as well. We tell you all the time about Tallulah. I mean, Tallulah is a casual, upscale dining experience. It's not just like eating at a hotel bar. It's an amazing dining experience right there in Tallulah, in the Renaissance Baton Rouge. Indoor, outdoor flow with the terrace outside. Check it out, man. Just get on by if you haven't been. It's Renaissance Baton Rouge. Better coverage for less money. That's what we tell you every day about Insurance Network of Louisiana. Check them out online at lainsurance.net, lainsurance.net. That's Insurance Network of Louisiana. It doesn't matter if it's your homeowner's insurance, your auto insurance, boat. Maybe we're talking about business insurance. What type of business? Any type of business. It doesn't matter. They crush it for restaurants and bars. Like if you own or operate a restaurant or bar, my goodness, let Insurance Network of Louisiana shop independently for free to see if they can find you better coverage for less money. When you're talking about your business, everyone is always looking at how do we improve the bottom line? Well, a big part of that certainly is improving revenue, But what if you could cut expenses, recurring monthly expenses, like your insurance? Let Insurance Network of Louisiana shop independently for free. Great news is it doesn't cost you anything. If they can save you money, great, switch. If not, stick with what you got. At least you'll know. 293-0450, 293-0450, or lainsurance.net.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
One more teeny-weeny ride before I take her home. She thinks my tractor's sexy.
Always shout out to Sunshine, our hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana, sunequip.com, sunequip.com. I love my friends over at Sunshine, man. My buddy Rooney emailed, sent Drew a birthday present, a little Sunshine lawnmower. Drew loves to watch lawnmowers. Shout out. Great business, great people, man. I love telling you about Sunshine. So glad to be partnered with them here on AFR. Okay, Muso. Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
NFL training camps getting underway all over the league, and Jamal Adams has found a new home. Jordan Schultz, first to report that former Tigers safety will be signing with the Minnesota Vikings. Jamal Adams since confirming that on his Twitter account. It'll be year 10 and team number 6 for Jamal Adams. Of course, the 6th overall pick back in 2017. A year ago, appeared in all 17 games with 4 starts for the Vegas Raiders. Actually moved to linebacker last year for the Raiders. We'll see where the Vikings play him. But year 10, team 6 for Jamal Adams, now a member of the Vikings. How about this? Not 1, not 2, but 3 former LSU Tiger basketball players are heading to Australia. Darius Days signed a 1-year deal with the Illawarra Hawks. Max McKinnon, of course, Australian native, signed a 2-year deal with the Brisbane Bullets. And Skylar Mays, a 1-year deal. Brisbane. Skylar Mays, a 1-year deal with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. Not sure when that season gets underway, but we'll find out. And we'll give you all the stats from those 3 Tigers continuing their professional career in Australia. It was a massive night on the diamond for Alex Bregman on Monday. 4 for 5, 3 runs scored, 2 RBI. 2 of the 4 hits were doubles for Bregman, and then this one in the 3rd inning.
This one hit in the air, right field. That's well struck. That one back towards the corner. Out of here. Alex Bregman the opposite way.
So Bregman, a triple shy of the cycle last night, dominant in the Cubs win over the Cardinals. And then Dylan Cruz. Cruz goes 1 for 4, his 8th double of the season. Average held steady at 228, played in center field for the Nationals, who fell to the Blue Jays. That's Tigers in the Pros.
Presented by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Experience quality service. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Remember, at Relief Windows, we talk about windows, doors, siding, shutters, and shades. Windows, doors, siding, shutters, and shades at Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. They do it better than anyone. Yes, it's my opinion, but you'll also understand when you've been around for 20 years, it's how they're able, nearly 20 years, it's how they're able to thrive like they've done for the last 20 years. Brandon Holly is one of the most ethical humans I've ever met. It's one of the reasons why they are such a unicorn in the fact that they will not take $1 from you until they're done and you're thrilled. They will not take a down payment. So at Relief Windows, call them. I tell you all the time, they're never going to be they're never going to be the cheapest. They're never going to be the cheapest. They can't be. When they offer a premium product, they have measure techs, installers, a true service department, and offer you a lifetime transferable warranty. But you want someone who's going to deliver a great product and is going to do what they say? You want Relief Windows. Windows, door, siding, shutters, and shades. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Just shared this out on my Twitter a bit ago. We'll have a story up at LouisianaSports.net, but a little bit of news came my way. LSU is adding another defensive assistant. Kevin Scherer is joining Lane Kiffin's defensive staff. Multiple sources confirmed to me today. title, responsibilities still to be determined, but Scherer is a longtime assistant. Most recently spent the spring with the Birmingham Stallions as the defensive coordinator. The Birmingham Stallions are the UFL, but has been at Bama. He was actually on Nick Saban's staff when they won the back-to-back titles in 2011 and 2012. So he's been at Bama, he's been at Georgia, he's been at Tennessee, he's been in the NFL with the New York Giants. So he's been all over football, both at the college and pro level. A really veteran voice here. He's 53 years old, so still a relatively young coach, but has just tons of experience all across the country and major defensive coordinator experience as well. When I look at this, I don't know what his role will, they've not yet identified what his title will be, right? Feels very similar to adding Ed Ogeron, who became a special assistant for recruiting and defensive line, whatever this title. That part is sort of irrelevant, whatever the title is. What this feels like is stockpiling coaching talent the way like Nick Saban used to do. So you had your replacements plug and play ready. So again, I'm not like predicting this, and I don't know the answer to this, but what I can see happen is a world where, okay, you see Blake Baker, who was offered 2 head coaching jobs this past offseason at Memphis and at Tulane, passed on them both. LSU goes and have a good season. It's not like people are going to forget about Blake Baker. So Baker, if he has another opportunity and becomes a head coach, well, do you want to go begin a search to bring in a DC? Or would you rather have someone you know and trust that knows your system, your personnel, your scheme, all that sort of stuff, plug and play ready? That's the idea, I would assume, here. It's worth noting, of course, Chris Kiffin is entitled co-DC with Blake Baker, although Baker's calling the defense. But Scherer would be just a massively experienced guy on staff, another veteran voice in meeting rooms this year. And for what feels like an inevitability when you do lose Blake Baker to a head coaching job, this would be a guy who, in theory, could be a just plug and play, elevation opportunity right there. So Kevin Scherer will be joining the LSU football staff as a defensive assistant. Again, most recently was the defensive coordinator at Georgia State in 2024, and then this spring was the defensive coordinator for the Birmingham Stallions in the UFL. As we get more information there, we'll certainly pass it along to you. Okay, it's after further review. We're glad to have you aboard with us here. We're brought to you by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Sunequip.com, sunequip.com. That's a website. You can go to any of their locations. Bunkie and below, you want a Deere. You want Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Okay, quick break. We'll get you national headlines with SportsCenter coming up right after the top of the hour. Take a look at value Heisman picks. I got my list. We'll talk about it next.
AFR.
Hey, if you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. Interesting, we're sponsored here today, of course, by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. And First South Farm Credit can actually help you finance your farm equipment as well. Now, farmers know about First South Farm Credit because they've been around for more than 100 years helping Louisianians buy land. So you need 1,000 acres of farmland. You already know about First South Farm Credit. But what if you want that recreational property, that hunting property in Mississippi or Texas, or maybe in Arkansas? Or maybe you want 50 acres in Clinton to build your family's dream home. First South Farm Credit can help. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. That's the website. FirstSouthFarmCredit.com is where you can go to learn more. Remember, they can help you buy land anywhere in the lower 48. It's FirstSouthFarmCredit.com. They get a buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit.